my YouTube channel. I'm Liam. I'm going to be previewing Round 7's AFL Fantasy action. It's a big trading round, this one, with a fair few injuries to key players. Dunkley, Dusty, Neil. What do we do with them? Plus there's some injured rookies. Berry, some rookies that aren't playing. What do we do with all these? There's a player named Zeeble who has the most ridiculous role in the AFL for fantasy reasons. Do we bring him in, and who are the other options that we can consider? So with the rookies, if you're going to go down this week, and there's not many options to say. I am going down to Frederick, who looked pretty had a nice role at Port, and I feel like his job security will be fairly high with Jones out. And he just seemed to rack up. It was a bit handball happy, but I feel like as he gets used to the game, he'll start kicking it a little bit more. Port do like to do a little bit of chipping around at the back, so I feel like he's got half decent job security, and he'll be a handy bench option and make me a bit of coin this week. There's no real other options I would consider in the 0 to 200 range. In this range, Boston-Valagi, if you need a forward desperately, is an option. With North being North, the ball's going to be down back a lot of the time. They seem to love to chip around there, as we've seen with Zeeble. So Boston-Valagi is an option. 266 cars do see him averaging about 65-ish, and that's going to be a nice handy price rise. I would go Frederick over him if you out of the two positions, if you had a choice of like a utility. But if you need a forward, he is definitely probably the best forward option. I wouldn't go near Murphy or a McRae. I just don't trust Collingwood. Just terrible this year, and I don't see him playing half any decent. Defenders have always the chance of +6s, but if you're playing as a forward, you can just go missing for games and score extremely low. I see Boston-Valagi got a fairly high floor on him with the amount of ball he'll get down back. There's no overly real options in this range. You can still consider Farah instead of Boston-Valagi if you have the cash. 300k is a bit much to pay for a rookie in such, but he is averaging 80, and that does have a decentish role at Gold Coast. Plus, we'll get forward defensive status along with Boston-Valagi, which will become handy during the bye rounds for flexibility. I personally would go Frederick, but if you do need a forward, Farah is certainly an option. Phil thought I don't think I would touch him. Even though he's got a nice ruck forward link, I don't see him averaging 94 each. He's scored 5 goals. I see him probably averaging 45 to 50 at best. Fun fact, I did go to primary school with Riley. Played cricket and footy with him. I was 3 years older, and he was better than me at both of them as a youngster. So no surprise he's now in the footy, but it's just a fun fact for everyone. I'd probably be touching him. But all the other options, there's no real anyone in the other price brackets. I wouldn't be touching them at this time of the season. This range, there's a few that you could consider. I wouldn't touch any of the mids, even though some are underpriced. I would prefer to be targeting those premium midfielders for late scoring potential. There are a fair few rookies actually making decent price, so I feel like later on the season you'll be able to afford those premium midfielders. For other options, Heppel is an option as a mid defender. I don't see him going 140 each week. I see him around that 90 mark. Collingwood inflates there. Everyone's scoring. They just allow cheap kicks all over the place. So Gold Coast, if you want a one-hit wonder, any of Took Miller, Anderson, Bowes will be handy targets, but wouldn't be. There will be 1 week wonders. They might score 140 next week. I wouldn't be surprised if all three of them went 110 plus, but not long-term options. Ash could be an option. Did have a nice little role at playing at GWS. They love the ball in his hands, so I'd probably go Heppel over him just as he has gone already up 200k, and it'll be hard. You'll have to keep him as a long-term keeper if you want to bring him in. For a forward, Fife is an option. He's injury-prone a little bit, can miss games, and doesn't have the highest of AFL fantasy ceilings as such. Tends to love to score in between the 90 and 105 mark. So, but I do, with all the injuries coming down, he's becoming probably near a top 8 forward. So if you need a forward, he's certainly an option, but there are plenty of more options that I would target over him this week. Going in the 700k price bracket, let's set these up into defender, forwards and mids. If you need a defender this week with some DPP, any of Mills or Doherty, I do like. Mills with his midfield role. Doherty is ultra consistent. I do see them being in the top 10 defenders for the rest of the season, so certainly options. Of course, as I said, Bowes is a one-hit wonder this week if you want a big score. And looking at Lloyd is definitely options now. He's gone down 104k. If I was probably picking a defender, I'd pick him. He can go massive, and from future seasons we can trust that. And he's 100k cheaper than last year. His starting price from last year, so underpriced. Scored 114 last week, and he tends to love to pig out near the back of the season as the games tend to open up a little bit for his scoring. So he's certainly an option in the forward line. Also, along with that, Zeebel's 100% an option. I don't see his role changing. The ball's going to be down there. He's got ultimate fixtures in the next 2. Melbourne will kick so many behinds. Collingwood, the week after, he might score 175. It'll be ridiculous. You can nearly captain him in next week against Collingwood, but we'll talk about that later. Hopefully he can get through the Melbourne game. He did have a little bit of a knock late in that Fremantle game. Hopefully he's alright for that. And with the premiums disappearing in the forward line, side bottoms Zorko become options. With injuries to Taylor Adams, side bottoms come into the midfield and looks half decent. Same as Zorko with Neil going down. I feel like he'll get more of a run in the midfield, and even Marshall coming back. He might be managed throughout the season with his foot, but handy ruck forward link. So any of those 3 are decent options. In the midfield, the 2 I would at the moment look to target. Treloar with Dunkley out looks to be an option. He might get less of that half-forward role and more into the guts with Dunkley out. And Sam Walsh has gone and taken over Carlton over Cripps, and I feel like he's going to keep up that 115 average. No one else here I would probably speak about. Gaff, just too inconsistent for my liking. Guthrie is definitely an option, but those 2 are my preferred. And any of these 800k players, I probably rate Duncan number 1 with Geelong's nice draw to come with. Oliver number 2, just always consistent. Petrarca 3, Took 4, and Steele 5, Lyon 6. That'll probably be my order if the premiums. Melbourne's run will soon probably come to a little halt, slowing down probably Oliver and Petrarca's score. I feel like they're slightly inflated. Their last 3, they'll probably come back down to average probably that 110 to 115. Duncan, I see him continuing that 120 average. Just with danger out, he just picks it up. He loves it cheap little kick down the back. He even takes kick outs. Just a nice role for a fantasy player. McRae's also, and Barrett, definitely options along with Taranto. And even McCluggage also, with Neil out now. Certainly options as such. And if you don't have a Grundy or a Gawn, and you have some DPP, definitely opportunities to bring those two in. Captains this week, I just like BC McRae is always a safe option. Against Richmond, do give up a few fair few points, as we saw last week with Petrarca and Oliver, and look to be banking anything 115 or more, and then most likely taking Merritt, who's usually my safe option. If Gawn against North would be my captain option after a VC McRae, but I do not have him. I do see him picking up this week, or even an Oliver or a Petrarca. And a smoky captain, took Miller against Collingwood, would be my smoky captain for the week. So hopefully giving you some good advice for this week, and good luck with your trades and team this week. And I'll see you Sunday night for hopefully a great review. Catch ya.